Yes, here we are, still continuing on with the series that the Georgia Association of Realtors Forms Committee has made for 2024 to their entire contract package. Thank you for joining me and continuing on with this series. I will link some of the other videos I've done in this series below. I am Dana Sparks, broker of Maximum One Greater Atlanta Realtors and the director of the Real Estate Academy of America, inviting you to join us for a CE class to go over all of these changes in depth, along with copies of everything. We are teaching these throughout December of 2023 and January 2024 in a variety of locations, Maximum One offices throughout the state, as well as virtually with various instructors, including a lot of your favorite closing attorneys. But continuing on, today I am going to cover the temporary occupancy agreements. So let's see what GAR has done to those. A couple of just minor changes, but needed changes. So the first one is the Form F219, which is the temporary occupancy agreement for the seller after closing. And what GAR or GAR, I'm not sure, different people pronounce it differently, but what GAR has done in this exhibit, as well as in the other one, is under the section about at time of closing, what gets exchanged between the buyer and the seller for access to the property. So it is paragraph 2, and it does state that at time of closing, seller shall provide buyer with one set of keys and door openers. That's where it ended in 2023. For 2024, GAR has added these additional items to be exchanged at closing. Fobs, access cards, codes, and other similar equipment needed to access the property, the community, and community amenities. Not later than the time of possession, seller shall turn over all remaining keys, door openers, fobs, access cards, codes, and other similar equipment needed to access the property, in the seller's possession to the buyer. That's it for the occupancy for the seller. Now, in the temporary occupancy agreement for the buyer prior to closing, I will just say, as a broker, this is a very, very tricky issue and highly discouraged for a buyer to occupy a property prior to closing. It does happen, and I understand there are some circumstances, but you guys absolutely need to make sure you're using this temporary occupancy agreement. So the first thing they've added to this exhibit, and this is exhibit F222, temporary occupancy agreement for buyer prior to closing. Under paragraph number 1, where it defines at what time the seller is giving occupancy rights to the buyer, they have added a phrase that says, seller has confirmed that if a property is located in a limited access community, that the buyer shall be given access to the property prior to closing. Brand new paragraph number 16. And what this states, I'll just read the whole thing to you. At the time of buyer's occupancy, to the extent allowed by the community association, seller shall provide buyer with one set of keys, door openers, fobs, access cards, codes, and other similar equipment needed to access the property. Seller shall also cooperate with the community association to provide buyer with access to the community and community amenities. At time of closing, to the extent allowed by a community association, seller shall turn over all remaining keys, door openers, fobs, access cards, codes, and other similar equipment needed to access the property, the community, and community amenities in the seller's possession to the buyer. In the event the sale is not consummated for any reason, the buyer will return all keys, door openers, fobs, codes, other similar equipment used to access the property and community amenities. So just a little bit of a distinction. What GAR is trying to get here is there are some issues where a property is located in a community and the seller, regardless of when this possession is, doesn't necessarily, the seller is responsible by virtue of the HOA to turn over some of these access keys, cards, fobs. They can't just turn them over to the new owner or to the buyer, but they actually have to turn them back in to the community. And so this is GAR's attempt to try and just clarify that if that is the case based on the community or the HOA, that there are arrangements made for the party taking possession or the new buyer at the end of closing to have to actually get in touch with, and this was also discussed in the purchase and sale agreement, if you'll remember, that they make arrangements for that to occur if the seller is prohibited by the community for actually turning some of those key cards or fobs over directly to a buyer and have to turn them into the association. Woo! Thank you guys so much for watching. Dana Sparks, broker of Maximum One Greater Atlanta Realtors, satisfying your needs with service, innovation, and education. Bye. If you like that video, check out the one here. If you like the content on this entire channel, please click here to subscribe. I try to take even the most complicated of real estate situations and make them crystal clear. See what I did there? Real estate made crystal clear. Thank you guys so much for watching.